Hey folks, I hope you are all doing well. I am reading on a YouTuber today who's been on the scene for a while. I will be reading for Rich Lux, a fellow Texas native. I have a bunch of family in Houston, so it's kind of cool reading for a Houstonite. I have already reversed my Wildwood Tarot cards. That's what I'm going to be using for a Celtic cross today. In the past, I haven't reversed my cards, but lately Spirit has been asking me to reverse the Wildwood deck. So I noticed that Rich is currently going through a Saturn return and that he will be going through his Saturn return in Pisces until early March of next year, 2023. So I wanted to know first what his challenges are. So everyone's Saturn return in Pisces is going to look a little bit different, but I want to see what Rich's is going to be like. So upright, this is about working hard. This is the Eight of Pentacles normally. And about working hard and carefully. His challenge is to work hard and carefully and not take shortcuts on something. Don't skip over some important lessons from the universe, basically, because he is weaving an important life, an important legacy for himself. He is going to be remembered past his lifetime, at least for a bit, and he needs to make sure that he's learning what the universe wants him to learn. Absolutely, he needs to be paying attention, close attention to his ancestors, to any guiding spirits that he might have around him. I hear that he has either 3 guiding spirits or 3 ancestors, possibly at least 1 grandparent amongst that mix. Excuse me, it is allergy season these days. This is about finding a home in unconventional ways and providing a home to other people also in unconventional ways. A safe place to land a family. This is going to be kind of like a chosen family situation, if you will. This is about being a role model that people look up to. If he doesn't take shortcuts, if he is careful about how he creates his legacy, basically the wonderful things that he does, for instance, if he does them out of a pure and good heart, the universe is going to reward that. Universe is going to protect him from loss if he weaves the right threads into his legacy. This is about weaving, if you will. You have charge of some threads, and it's a caution to be sure that what you're weaving in is actually stuff that you want in the long run. I'm going to shuffle these back in. Those are his challenges. To create to be the role model for himself, for his community. I'm getting that either the YouTube community is going to be fractured, or just this millennial generation, the Gen Z generation, is just going to be a bit fractured. And he has the potential to be that kind of stabilizing point, that thing that people come back to for a little bit of entertainment in kind of a rough world. He can be that if he's careful about the things he says, the things he does, the legacy that he builds, for instance. So he has hearth fire. I'm doing a Celtic cross at this point to kind of see what he can do to have the best Saturn return possible. This is to come together, like we were talking about, with making a family that he chooses. I definitely see him as being kind of a bonfire personality in the sense that he attracts people to himself. Very charismatic individual, and this is what he is supposed to be doing to have his best possible Saturn return. That's his central theme. So this is in the reverse position. This is about, not the moon, sorry. Okay. So it gives me that kind of moon type of vibes. There is some of that influence in there, obviously, because look at what the water nymph is holding up. It's also about being kind of held in place. So this is kind of a dreamscape, if you will. Definitely supposed to meditate on any downloads that the universe is supposed to be giving him through the friends and these social experiences that he makes. He doesn't necessarily need to go out in public in order to have these kinds of interactions either. He's going to feel unmoored sometimes, like he's just unanchored at points. When he allows this dreamscape, these will be people that he's not accustomed to being around. They're really cool people who are going to take him to new limits, and you're going to see him doing new things if he chooses, right? If he chooses to have the best Saturn return possible, he can have that kind of neat thing. So I see leaving something. This is, I know it says about, it says, I thought it said tradition. It says transition into something new. So this Saturn return has definitely been having him transition into something new with friends. And these friends are going to create this kind of dreamscape which he can flow with or which he can kind of struggle along with. He's that figure in the boat, so he's kind of at the mercy of his environment. And as long as he picks good people, he's going to be in really, really good shape. That's going to be the key to having a good Saturn return, is the people he surrounds himself with. In his future, he has the potential to become the King of Cups, in this case, the King of Vessels. A really grounded individual. He's been through stuff. He knows what he's about. He's not easily upset. He is part of both the air and the water. He thinks well. But he can also hop onto land. This is a heron who can hop onto land at any point. There is that implication that this is a kind of creature who's mastered all but one element. Of course, the fire element, right? We don't think of birds and fire. But air, earth, and water, Rich Lux has the potential to be this incredibly grounded individual who is grounding for other people in those unconventional ways that we discussed with that Ten of Pentacles in reverse. There is the potential for loss in that challenge, but he's also strongly, mightily protected against it, against loss. There's the threat. It's there to make him grateful for what he has. When he sees threats to what makes him happy, what makes his future family happy, that's an opportunity for him to be grateful. Universe might give him some opportunities like that. There comes the... So for real, the people that he meets, that he celebrates life with, are going to be part of his legacy. These might be people behind the scenes. They might be in front of the camera. They might be people that he collaborates with. But either way, they're going to be part of who he becomes. what kind of reputation he leaves behind for himself. This is a very working behind the scenes kind of energy. Like we had said before, it could be in front of the camera, but there's a lot of behind the scenes energy. There may be stuff that he's working on that he's just flat out not taught. He's keeping this to himself. Building up skills that are going to serve him in the long term for a long time, but he's not showing them off in any tangible way on camera. It doesn't show up in his drama videos. This is something completely different. Making a happy life, making a happy home for himself. For some reason, the candles are part of that equation, which I think is kind of fun. This is a time period where he is leaving a time of being separate. Maybe not necessarily isolated, but this is the end of a learning period, an end to being separate from other people. And it's part of him moving forward into that King of Cups energy. External circumstances, it's the beginning of something new with this. If he's to have his best Saturn return, embrace the new stuff, and I do see that he is embracing the new stuff these days. Definitely see a time where he's going to need to tap into what his ancestors have done before him. These are the people who've passed on, who might be in the old country, whatever that might mean. For Rich Lux, for instance, there might be some traditions from an ancestral home that might be really beneficial to him while he taps into that. Tapping into that could be a little bit intimidating because it lands in the hopes and fears area. But it is absolutely going to give him that richness with his legacy, because it's going to complete him as a person. He's going to know his roots and how far they go into the ground. Going to contribute to his earth energy, his groundedness. Hey, this is about hitting the targets that he wants. Hitting the target demographics. He's going to be able to focus so carefully on exactly what he wants. He's going to be able to hit the things that he wants. In reverse, to me, in this situation, he gets the prey that he wants. Gets nice deals, for instance, sponsorships. He gets to travel to places that he didn't think he'd get to. He gets really emotional thinking about traveling to these places. This might be a home of a grandmother or a great-grandmother, for instance. He might be paying respects to their grave sites, for instance. It might be like something that he thought a kind of bucket list. I'm getting kind of like a tropical area in like possibly Mexico, for instance. That might be where some family's from. I take the allegedly for entertainment purposes only. Take everything with a grain of salt, okay? But I definitely see him getting emotional visiting a place where his ancestors walked, for instance, like a small town, for instance. I want to do a Lenormand spread, so it looks like he's already high vibing. When I was tapping into his energy, I kind of got this highly favored energy from him, deeply loved by his ancestors, for instance. They're pleased with what he's doing. They're pleased on who he's becoming. He's aware that he has a legacy to weave and that it must be a good one. And they're pleased with what he's choosing to do. All wonderful things. I'm going to get my Lenormand cards set up and we'll get started. Okay, so I want to do a Grand Tableau Lenormand spread for Rich Lux and what exactly he is here on Earth to do. He's the kind of person to be deeply connected to his ancestors. Like, that gets him emotional. Thinking about it gets him emotional. He's got a lot of projects behind the scenes that he's not talking about these projects really at all, not even hinting at them with his audience, because they're so near and dear to his heart. It's kind of like they're his like little babies. He's not ready to let every stranger handle them just yet. He's a deeply private kind of person, one of those still waters runs deep kind of people, on his way to being that king of vessels that we saw earlier. Tell you what, let's lay them out, and I'll be right back. Okay, folks, so both Rich's feminine and masculine aspects are here on the table. He is both the Emperor and the Empress all in one. He has his own personal balance of those two characters, even if he isn't that into, he might not be into tarot at all. And if you were to say that kind of stuff, you'd be like, what? But he has a good balance of both the anima and the animus within himself. And I note that his animus appears in his cards of fate. There may be some things that his feminine side taps into that his masculine side kind of needs to just follow along with, and that would be in line with the Emperor-Empress kind of relationship. She comes first and he comes second, right? We will take a look at where the Emperor, if you will, within Rich appears, because I see some interesting choices that he could make in love that we'll get into it, okay? I want to take a look at his heart of the situation first. I see him being isolated from the quick movement of some kind of repeat of a cycle, right? Something to do with finances. Like, I see him being loyal to drama because that's what the community wants. But this need for money, that he just kind of, I see him potentially being separate and isolated from that. Like, he likes what the money provides, but he doesn't, like, he's a happy person without comfortable objects necessarily. Obviously, a roof over your head, good food and all that, good company, that kind of thing. And like, he plays with his expensive handbags and all that kind of good stuff, but I don't particularly see this kind of person to be seduced by the ring, the pearl, the koi, for instance, or expensive pets. He's not here to be like, these things come and go, and he's aware of that. He's much more of a boss kind of figure who is here to stay. He sees that all that glitters is not gold, and sometimes what is actually gold is quite dull and needs to be polished and needs to be carved and coddled and you know, like taken care of, like a jeweler would know how to do. And he's that kind of long-term person. I go back to that Eight of Stones, that Eight of Pentacles in reverse, about him working behind the scenes on stuff because he knows that this drama stuff isn't going to last. He knows he's going to get tired of it. It's a good place for him to be while he works on the stuff that he really, really wants to do. And that's a great way to run a career if that's what you want. That's a smart place, in my opinion. The universe says yes, that they're proud of him, they're smiling at what he does. It's kind of fun doing a reading for a genuinely good person. Someone who, in the eyes of the universe, is highly valued, right? High vibing individual. This is about establishment. It could be about sex if we want to read into that, maybe here in just a bit, right? But right here, this is about watching out for what it takes for them to be established. And they'll work, and Rich is going to work on this in stages, I see. So he'll work on part of his dream one day and then work on another part of it another day. I get the feeling that he's been doing this over years, and so he's accumulating something that he's going to be really, really proud of. I'm getting that there might be some time back into his ancestors. There might be some faith-related rewards that he gets. Maybe with children, like he might have a family of his own one day. Like literally, that might be a way that he passes on his legacy, is that he has kiddos. There might also be something that he does that is kid-friendly, but is also kind of faith-related. Maybe not. But I suspect that there might be something where he raises interesting. So faith lands on the house of mice, and that's typically about destruction. And here is the heart. So when we're talking about destruction of some religious traditions, that might be investigating what happened in a past lifetime or a past generation and asking, where did things go wrong? How was religion used as an excuse when it is supposed to uplift and make us better people? And religion and maybe a past family situation was used to harm, for instance. And maybe he's exposing how this hurts has hurt the children of his family, for instance, through the years, through generations. So he's got a choice coming up here when it comes to what kinds of risks and rewards he wants to take while he's establishing himself and eventually destroying something about some religious traditions that have caused harm to people in his family, that have hurt the loving structure that maybe binds together not just actual like literal children, but inner children, if you will. This is about healing possibly intergenerational trauma. And it might be with the women in his family. There might be some intergenerational trauma within the women. And that might be part of what he heals here. So when we talk about him and him watching out for watching out for how he puts his foundation underneath him, right? That's what this card is about. How is he going to establish himself? He is definitely putting himself first. And there might be some lies that he tells certain people in order to protect that investment. Because here we have that kind of clover card, what I kind of consider alongside the investment card, which is fish. He's going to say some things that he might feel a little bit guilty about. But he needs to protect whatever's going on here. In combination, this could be for anyone else who wasn't rich. This might be kind of a destructive kind of angle. But I'm also not getting that because he's been working on this for a while. And I'm thinking that he wants to heal some things in his family that he feels like other family members just have not been able to. He wants to end a cycle here. establish the end of a cycle, which is interesting. And it is risky. People might accuse him of being selfish even. Why can't you just leave stuff in the past? You don't want to make your aunts, your grandmother, those kinds of people, you don't want to upset them, do you? He needs to be cautious. There's a possibility that he might burn bridges. It's key to be careful of which bridges you do want to burn and which ones you don't. There will be some that he genuinely needs to burn. That's what the universe will want. It won't feel amazing, but it'll be good when he does. I want to get into his Emperor right here because the Emperor within himself is surrounded by some real difficulties when it comes to being within this drama community. I'm seeing like a lot of dust being kicked up, so to speak, around him. And of course, like with him being a drama commentator, he is going to magnetize some of that stuff towards him. But I'm like seeing how his difficulties are putting him through the ringer. This might be I suspect this is his Saturn return right here. Like, it's the end of an era. He's being asked to grow up right now, and he'll be asked to grow up until March of 2023, early March of 2023. I see him exposing some conflict around a really destructive choice that somebody made in love. Going into the future, he's going to talk about somebody, possibly Trisha Paytas. He might double back to talking about Trisha Paytas and Jason Nash, or another kind of equally kind of destructive couple. It might be Trisha Paytas, it might be someone else, but he's going to be talking about a really destructive throuple, even a set of three people, a love triangle, where things got genuinely nasty. And it's going to make things more difficult for him. This might show up more towards this might show up around like his Christ return, for instance. So after Saturn return, I'm still learning about this. So after Saturn return, you come back to your community, so to speak, to show off the lessons that you learned. That's called your Christ return. During his Christ return, he's going to have the option to expose this, and he's going to feel a little bit conflicted because he might ask himself, I've already been through some real difficulties. Do I want to do this for himself? And the universe is going to want him to cover this because his fate is connected to it somehow. Look at how it goes on well into the future. What he's here on Earth to do. It's like what he exposes in this awful relationship gets him going about the generational curses that have been passed down through his family. And that's when he's going to get passionate about using his money and his influence and his clout to change things for the better, not just for his family, but for other families who are in his similar position. Might be like maybe from the same area, for instance. He can do a lot to help with that. So I'm getting in my mind those pictures of feminist protests in Mexico talking about how many women have been killed, how many have gone missing or been kidnapped, for instance, have been trafficked. I see him being an influence within that movement. And his ancestors are so thrilled to see him working through that. This is 5 or 10 years in the future. Rich Lux is going to change dramatically as a person. I think you're really going to like who he becomes because the universe sure does like it. His Empress within himself is going to be here to open up family secrets. I probably should have read the cards of fate earlier after I took care of the heart of the matter right there. He is here to open up family secrets, specifically what has been done to the women in his family. Like his mom, for instance, his grandma, a sister. I don't know if he has a sister. I'm sorry if I'm like, it could be an aunt. But I'm talking, it is somebody's sister. He is going to be exposing those secrets. He's going to be reading them to filth. He does have some investigative experience is the word I'm going for. So I see him digging this stuff up. Women, I saw anchor, right? Women who go way, 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 way back. Stretch back generations, 8 generations. I didn't read this row. He's not talking about this project yet because he feels like it's kind of risky to talk about it right now. This is a long-term journey that he has wanted to start for a long time. I see this event up here where he is beating the inciting event, and very soon after that, this journey will start. It's going to be an emotional one. It's going to be one that is kind of private because it is to do with his family. There are going to be some things that he explores that he just never allows to go past his family, and that's wonderful if he can pull up stuff that heals himself, that heals these intergenerational scars. If it relieves karma within his family, I think it's just a wonderful journey that he's going on. Keeps it completely away from the private eye, or as best as he can anyway. He really wants to keep it away from people. Because he thinks I can definitely see that he isn't going to be sure about how he feels about any of this. Like, he's going to be emotionally numb at points. He is going to need intense therapy if he's going to go through this. Like, there's no way that he's not going to be hurt. There's no way that he's not going to be coming out of this experience scarred. But even if he isn't explicitly a light worker, a psychic, or a medium, or anything like that, he is doing the labor of a light worker, someone who brings a torch into dark spaces, and he is going to need therapy to just kind of clear out his thoughts, get stuff off his chest, because the universe is going to ask him to do more good work if he does a little bit of good work, right? He's been trusted with a little bit, and he will be trusted with more if he does good things with it. It could be about marriage. When I think about how they're bookending right here, this could be about a contract. It could be about some letters that maybe he pulled up. There might be some physical artifacts from his family that he has pulled up that kind of becomes that proverbial thread in the rug that he starts pulling up. The journey will start in earnest after this inciting event, but he's going to start pulling up clues early on that start kind of pointing him down this road. He is here to break intergenerational curses. That is what he is here on earth to do. So I'm looking at this particular influence right here. This is a wonderful emperor kind of person, a very loyal individual who's interested in establishing himself, but kind of keeps their cards close to their chest. Very social individual, but is learned, and listens and says almost nothing. His role as a drama commentator is so interesting because the universe is going to transform it into something that they are going to use for, like, the universe, spirit guides, ancestors, that they are going to turn into something wonderful. They're going to use his talents and his abilities and experiences to avenge the wrongs that have been done to them. So when we look at his Empress within himself, this is again someone who is very careful about how they take care of themselves. If anything starts, if any part of their foundation starts to flounder, this Empress, it manifests new resources, new bits of foundation to sustain her, right? This is someone who is not just book smart, but is a bit street smart too. And the Empress within Rich Lux is using this to her advantage here. I see a dramatic situation, possibly through this inciting event up here, a deeply emotional kind of thing. I see there being kind of a major... It's going to be the end of an era for him. It's going to be a reckoning. It's going to be earth-shaking. It's going to be a tower moment for him. And he's going to know what to do, what to say, and what not to do, what not to say, to like get out of this situation unscathed as much as possible. He's going to need to go through this. That top row, that's a major event in YouTube history and Trisha Paytas's history. And I take that with a grain of salt. It could be Trisha Paytas or it could be someone else. But there are going to be some people that really come for him, and he's going to know how to protect himself. He's got all kinds of backup behind him that's going to keep him safe. When we talk about a Saturn return in Pisces, I'm looking at this side and the heart at opposite ends over here. He's going to learn how to have to deal with boundaries in this Saturn return and possibly past it. He's going to have to learn about how some boundaries, when they're crossed, even if he loves the person, he's going to have to say, you can't do that. Game over, basically. Okay, and when you put it together with family and contract, this is a kind of soul contract, if you will. Rich Lux is being born with the people in his family because he needs to end, once again, an intergenerational curse. That's why he's here. It's going to be earth-shattering for him. It's also going to break a family cycle that needs to end. Looking at this money situation, there's some interesting love wrapped up around this. Okay, so love is on coffin in this case. That's not something that's about repressing. There's some repression underneath here, and there's some, this is mob boss energy. This is like violent gang energy, violent family energy, if you will. This is something that Rich's family does not talk about, does not like to talk about, and there's a lot of money wrapped up in the way that they behave. Yeah, risky choices. And this lands on the house of the bear, which I'm kind of not surprised. Very destructive. This is a family that Rich comes from people, quite possibly, from the old country, who are well known for how they treat their family members and how they treat the community around them. I'm getting like gang, cartel kinds of sensations here. And that family has accumulated karma that Rich Lux is going to do some work in relieving. These are choices that the family has made. And as a family member, Rich Lux is going to be instrumental in busting that karma, if you will. Definitely, his family has put money first. Repeatedly. Yeah. Money above love. I'm feeling that this is just an incredibly a selfish family who has lived kind of close to the earth, barely scraping by. They're well known. They'll use what's at their disposal. They'll find things that are disposable to them, like love, for instance. There may be some human trafficking involved that Richard may be exposing. Not within this inciting event, but within his own family. I pulled up mice, but I didn't look at there's clouds. Yeah. Confused about why there is so much destruction in this choice. Choice landed on crossroad, landed on the house of the snake. Deception. Hatred of people, basically. And also within this particular inciting event that Rich will be discussing, there's some nasty stuff within Trisha Paytas's world, or whoever he's going to be discussing. Spirit says the reading has gone on just a little bit too long. I want to thank her for guiding me through this, and I wish the best of luck to Rich. Clearly he's doing wonderful things, and I look forward to seeing what else he does. Y'all take care, okay?